Good afternoon, everyone, or evening, I suppose, if you're on the East Coast. My name is Gail, aka Sunshine, and I am here with the 21st episode of the Beyond Cancer series, sponsored by Epic Experience. Just a quick intro, and then we'll get into today's episode. In case you aren't familiar with Epic Experience, it was started 12 years ago, just this month, our last month, actually. And since then, we'd had over 500 survivors at the Epic Experience summer and winter camps. Unfortunately, because of COVID, things have changed a little this year, so we're not having in-person camps, but we have had a few virtual camps to really reach out and help survivors live beyond cancer. Epic started after Nancy Farrow's oldest son, was diagnosed with cancer and kind of had a hard time getting his life back on track. And by the way, that son, Train Tracks, has just celebrated 13 years of being cancer-free. So bravo to Train Tracks. But because of him and what Nancy saw in terms of his struggling, she came up with this idea for Epic Experience as a way for adult cancer survivors of all ages, all cancers, anywhere in the United States, to come and learn how to get their life back on track, to find emotional support, to challenge themselves physically. If it sounds like I enjoyed my experience, I absolutely did. It changed my life. And I'm now part of the alumni team, and we're the one who's kind of put together this Beyond Cancer series as a way to help those who have attended camp stay in touch, retain that community, and support one another beyond just that 1 week. This series is for anyone, though. If you caregivers, survivors, friends, anyone you know who might benefit from hearing anything from this series, go ahead and invite them. Plus, it's recorded so they can listen to it later. If you're interested in the other virtual programs that are going on right now, you can check out the Epic Experience website. There's a lot going on, especially because of COVID. A lot of it's happening virtually. So today we are going to be talking with sarcoma cancer survivors and talking about how their diagnosis, their life since being diagnosed, ongoing treatments, all that kind of stuff. And we have Carly, Sarah. Hi. There's Carly. Here we have Sarah. I think there she is. Sarah and I share a last name. This is Sarah Faye.
Hi.
Nice to see you. So welcome both. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, and we have Emily. Awesome. This is also Emily. I'm going to let you guys each individually introduce yourselves a little more, give your camp name. So to start with, if you can just kind of say where you're from, when you went to camp, what your camp name is. If you feel like sharing how you got your camp name, that would be awesome. Just kind of that general stuff, and then we'll get into the cancer stuff later. Okay. So Carly, why don't we start with you on this one?
Okay. I currently live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My camp name is Tater Tot. I went to camp last July. It was the best week of my life. Where I got my camp name, I'm horrible at coming up with nicknames. So I just searched on the internet, and since I'm living in Minnesota, everyone loves the tater tot hot dish. So I was like, Tater Tot, that sounds good.
Perfect. Yep. Perfect. Sarah, how about you?
Hi, I'm Sarah, and my camp nickname is Kobe, which is just a college nickname, and that's all I could think of at the time. So I am Kobe. I went to winter camp in January of 2018, and it was amazing, and just met some really wonderful people and had a really wonderful time.
Awesome. And Emily?
I'm Emily. I went to camp in, I believe, February 2019. Feels like yesterday and so long ago at the same time. Yeah. My nickname is Professor Animal because I was regaling my car friends with animal facts all the way up to camp and informed them that there are no buffalo in North America, only bison. So, Yeah.
Hence Professor Animal. Awesome. Well, once again, just thank you guys so much. We've been doing these cancer specific episodes now for a while. And so today we're talking about sarcoma. And so what I'd like to do is have each of you kind of talk about your diagnosis, what your symptoms leading up to it, and then kind of like the first line of treatment and how long that continued and all of that fun cancer stuff. And for most of these, I'm going to ask a question and you can go ahead and jump in. And then we'll just kind of go from there. Okay. So let's talk about diagnosis. Who wants to go first on this one?
I can go first.
All right.
So I was diagnosed in August of 2017. I was about to go into my sophomore year of college, so that was pretty rough.
Yeah.
As far as like symptoms leading up to diagnosis, I had severe back pain for about six to 8 months, and my doctors had me go to physical therapy and try that, and that just didn't work. And then I was at a graduation party at the end of July in 2017, and all of a sudden I couldn't feel my legs. So I went to see the doctors. They thought it was sciatica. And so for those days, it was about 4 days, and then it just got worse and worse. So my dad took me to the emergency room, and they did a scan, and that's where I found a tumor, a little grape-sized tumor crushing my spinal cord. So I was admitted right away, and I was in the hospital for 45 days straight. I had 2 spine surgeries, and then a round of chemo, and then I was transferred to Children's Hospital in Wisconsin, and that's where I did the rest of my treatment and the radiation.
And all of that ended when for you?
My last chemo date was April 28th, 2018.
Awesome. And since then?
2 years cancer-free.
Awesome. Wonderful. That's great. Thank you. All right. Either of you two. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, either way.
Emily, go ahead.
All right. So my initial diagnosis came like 2 weeks after my 12th birthday. I fractured my arm pulling a shirt off a hanger. And my mom was like, "There's no way you broke your arm." I was like, "I don't know, Mom. It cracked, so let's find out." So I went to the doctor. Luckily, my pediatrician was like, "That's not right," and sent me to get some tests. And after the x-ray, they immediately knew it was not good. And so that's when I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma and did a lot of chemo and surgery. So actually the cancer was in my left humerus. So they took that bone out and replaced it with a cadaver bone, a titanium rod, and my right fibula.
Wow.
So that was fun. I was lucky enough to be in remission from about, I believe, October, I want to say 2006 until almost 10 years later. I was in college. I was 21. And second time around, I'd been having a bunch of weird digestive problems. So I thought maybe I developed a food allergy or something. Like it was completely different than the first time. So wasn't really thinking cancer until finally one day I just couldn't breathe well. So took myself to the ER and demanded a CAT scan, and they found a like cantaloupe sized tumor just in my abdomen. So recurred at a completely different site 9.5 years later. So it was kind of a twist. Did more chemo, surgery, and then did an autologous bone marrow transplant on December 8th of 2015, which is also my birthday. So my birthday and my rebirthday are the same.
Oh, wow.
And that was the last chemo. And so this December, it'll be 5 years out for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Sarah.
Hi. So I was diagnosed in September of 2015, right about this time. It was actually late August, early September, and I was going through just a really stressful time in life with teen kids, a really sick mom, kind of in the throes of like crazy busy life. But I was having some abdominal pain that I didn't give a lot of thought to. I thought I was probably constipated or something, or even if there was a growth, I just figured it was some kind of weird fibroid or something. And so I put off going to the doctor until I had my regular doctor visit, which was already scheduled for late August. So I went, and he just felt around, and he's like, I think you need to get an ultrasound because you do feel something. So over the course of the next few days, I had ultrasounds, CAT scans, and he was really afraid to say anything because he was my general doctor. Referred me to a surgeon, so went to the surgeon who also wanted me to see a radiologist, and we were just kind of filling around for a few weeks. Like, nobody wanted to come out and say what they thought it might be, or, So anyway, I got directed to a oncologist who had me do a biopsy, and then after the biopsy, my tumor started growing like crazy.
Really?
And then in the meantime, I had been doing some research and was able to find a doctor at UCH, University of Colorado Healthcare, and he is a sarcoma specialist. So once I was diagnosed with leiomyosarcoma, which it took about 3 or 4 weeks, I think, between all of the different doctors, and my tumor grew to 17 pounds. And so I had surgery on October 2nd, 2015. And then I started chemo. And during that time, my mom died. So I got out of hospital, my mom died, and I started chemo, which was the AIM regimen. Did that, where you stay in the hospital for 5 nights. I did that for 4 months. Then I had another surgery in March because I had fibroids in my uterus, and so leiomyosarcoma can oftentimes show up in the uterus, so I didn't take any chances. So had that, and then the following October, which was October 2016, cancer was back, so started another chemo of Taxotere and Gemzar and Taxotere. Handled that pretty well. And then, let's see. And that February of 2017, I believe, I had yet another surgery. So that was, and then I started another trial of chemo. I was on 2 different clinical trials, starting in like probably April of 2017. And then I got to go to Epic in January of 2018, I think is when it was. So, but I was still going through some chemo treatment. And then had to go off that trial and started another trial that
We have a frozen, so we'll come back to that. I won't tell the rest of her story because I know part of it, but I'll let Kobe come back and tell us. So, congratulations again on both of you on being cancer free. Are you both doing like continual, like every 5 months or 6 months? Are you on some kind of follow up regimen, both of you?
Yeah, I just started the every 6 months.
Okay.
And I just went to every year. So I actually just had scans on Monday, and they all looked good. So that was a big relief.
Yeah, it is always, isn't it? I don't think you don't ever get used to it, even though, however many times you've had it done.
Talk yourself up. Like, it's definitely back. It's definitely back.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? And then,
it's back.
Welcome back. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Hi, sorry.
That's all right.
I can't.
We were
Can
at.
you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Sorry, a big truck. Yeah. So anyway,
So
I had another surgery this past February.
Yep.
To remove. I had some another growth. So anyway, they took out part of my. So I've had my uterus removed, my spleen removed, part of my stomach removed, part of my colon removed. So yeah, I'm pretty much follow. And I'm chemo right now, but I'm getting ready to start grant. Kind of a lot.
well, you look. So your last surgery was in February. Is that what it was, or January? I think we're having. Oh, all right. She'll be back. I'm wondering for both of you. You were both young. You were 12 the first time, Emily, and you were
19.
19. I mean, shock probably doesn't even like do it justice to say how you initially responded. But I'm wondering if you can kind of say what were your initial thoughts. Both Emily, also because you were re-diagnosed again, and I mean, at what, 22? You said
21. Yeah.
21. What were your thoughts for both of you, kind of as you realized what was happening, as you heard those words, you know, that nobody ever wants to hear?
I mean, I was obviously shocked, especially because I felt like I had never like abused my body with like anything. And I had played soccer for 16 years. I was very, very healthy, and then had back pain, and like all of a sudden it was there. And I was just like, I think, yeah, I was devastated. I think
Yeah. That I can understand that. Yeah. Emily, how about you?
I think I've noticed from talking with other friends who were diagnosed as young adults, it's definitely different when it's a recurrence at that age. I was young enough at 12, like I'd had grandparents pass away from cancer, but I still didn't really understand what it meant. And I truly don't think I knew how dangerous my situation was. I knew it was unpleasant and there was a lot of vomiting and fun stuff like that, but I never really was scared for my life. Like I actually found recently a journal I kept at the time because my parents were like, you should keep a journal. And I was like, fine. And I spelled chemo in my first entry, KIMO. Like I had no idea what any of it meant. Like,
right. That's true.
So then with the recurrence, it's this weird, like in some ways it's easier because you know what to expect. You've done it before. And in some ways it was a lot harder being at that stage in my life and understanding the full weight of the situation, and feeling so much more like I was missing out on other things going on.
Yeah. When it came back, did you also feel the weight of knowing it had come back, in the sense that that's doubly not good? You know what I mean? Not just that you've been diagnosed, but were you able to grasp that? Because you were older, it was your second time.
Definitely. I think I had a lot more existential crises that time around. And for sure, and again, the fact that there was such a long gap between my recurrence, like almost a decade, that's very unheard of. You know, most of the time, for a lot of cancers and Ewing's, at least, those first 5 years are really kind of big for testing. And so I don't think anyone was expecting it at that point. I don't think I was getting scans anymore. It had been a few years. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Carly, you were nodding when she was saying that you were missing out, feeling like you're missing out. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, because I had just finished my freshman year, so I had all these friends from the dorm. Like, I felt like I had finally found my people as like a young adult.
Yeah.
And then I was thrown back into my hometown, so I was just like I had definitely had FOMO for sure.
Yeah.
And it was just so tough.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Speaking of friends, how did you tell them? Like, how did you go for both? This is for both of you, but how, Carly, since I was just talking to you, how did you go about telling family also, but especially this? You're right. You just found this your people.
Yeah.
How did you go
I
about
think
telling them?
I had like a huge group chat, and I like first just kind of was like, oh, I'm in the hospital. Like, I think it was even before I went in the hospital, I kind of reached out to some of my friends. And then like once, because at first they thought it was lymphoma or leukemia, and then they didn't really know what it was at first, and then they said it was Ewing's. So I mean, yeah, I think it was just in a group chat, and then after that I had posted on Facebook just like an update.
Yeah, and I'm wondering for both of you. I mean, you're young enough where you're on your own, at least Emily the second time, and yet you're still your parents' kid. Now, I'm sure they knew probably if they were with you. Were they with you actually for both of you when you heard?
My dad was, and my mom was out of state, so she had to fly in the next day. So
okay. And Emily?
For that second time, I called my mom when I was taking myself to the ER and was like, something's wrong. So I was at college too. So I was like, you need to get up here. So I heard the news by myself, but she and my older sister were there, and I immediately told them. And then at the end of the day, went and told my roommates in person, because my mom and my aunt showed up to help me move all my stuff. And they're like, what's going on? It's like, well, they knew my history. So I was like, well, it's back. And then also Facebook. Just blast everyone at once so you don't have to do the individual.
It's made it a little social media has made that a little easier in terms of getting the word out, especially with your friends. How did you find that they responded? You know what I mean?
I mean,
it's such a hard age to have that happen.
I think like almost everyone was super supportive at first, just kind of trying to be there for me, and that was awesome. And I was also getting hit with just like so many text messages, like, and it was all like, how are you, and I'm like, I have cancer. But I think as the time went on, I noticed that several of them kind of like, I could guess a good word for would be ghosted me a little bit. And like every time I would do like a life update, they would reach out, but it was mostly like, I really found out who my real friends were at that point.
Interesting. Emily, did you have a similar experience?
I've been very, very lucky in my life. I have had the same group of best gal pals. Like there's 6 of us total some of them since elementary school, some since middle school. So I knew most of them around the first time I was sick. And so even though most of them, like, we weren't close enough where they like visited me in the hospital when I was a kid, they all were like prepared to like rally. One of them wasn't able to come home for the holidays, but when I was in the transplant unit, you can only have 6 people on your visiting list. So I had my parents and then the 4 girls who could make it into town. So my siblings were not super thrilled with that decision, but so I just have been very lucky, because I know from talking to other folks that there is a lot of trauma in finding out like who really cares about you and who might not. So I know that I've been in a very blessed situation to have that group of women in my life.
Yeah, I can imagine that's tough. There was a question, and by the way, if you're watching this and you have a question, go ahead and put it in the comments, and we will get those going here. One of them is, did you feel like your body betrayed you? Somebody says that's how they felt.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Emily?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this with my scans the other day and how something in recent years I've been really trying to be better with like self-care and boundaries and, loving myself and all those things that comes with that. And I think it's scary when it's you that you're fighting, if you think about it. Ewing's is like genetic. It's not hereditary, but it's just some freak genetic mutation that then it's in me in the deepest sense of the word. And so I feel like I think about that a lot, and it feels like a betrayal, but it's something that just happens, and I have my moments of rage and my moments of trying to be enlightened and at peace with it, and seeing like, well, it's me, but it's not me. I don't know how to embrace this in some Zen sense of the word, but yeah. So there's a lot of complicated emotions about my relationship with my body for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. Again, if you're watching, this is episode 21 of the Beyond Cancer series, and today we're talking about sarcoma with Carly and Emily. One question, and is Ewing sarcoma, so that's what both of you were diagnosed with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that typically a young person, like does that usually happen for young people?
Yeah, it's a childhood cancer, technically.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard you say Children's Hospital. I was also treated at Children's Hospital. Even the second time around, I still go there. It's great.
Yeah, I love it there.
That's awesome.
They're gonna kick me out soon, but
nah, not until they do. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Well, and apparently there are more than 50 different types of soft tissue sarcoma, and I don't remember Kobe's type, but I don't think it was Ewing's because she was older when she was diagnosed, but I know it was a type of sarcoma. Let me ask you this. Have you guys, with being diagnosed with cancer and all of the side effects that go with the cancer itself, plus all the treatments, how has it affected you physically, mentally, emotionally, in all those kind of things? I mean, have there been major life, obviously cancer is a major life change, just period, but have there been things, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, we've talked to people on this program where now they have certain digestive issues that they didn't have before, or general fatigue or things like that. Have you guys experienced any of those kind of things?
Yes.
Yeah. Like what? For you, Taylor,
well, actually, like just recently, within the last 8 months, my legs have been getting weaker and weaker, and because of where the tumor was, like in my low back, it did affect my walking. And I had drop foot after the first 2 surgeries, but for the first year and a half after treatment, I was able to go upstairs. I went on a trip to Europe with my mom and like hiked, I was like back to normal almost. And then like this last fall, I just started to see like weakness and I was tripping more. So I noticed the drop foot. And so I've gone to a lot of doctors, especially recently within the last week, and they've kind of concluded that it's radiation induced injury. So it's from what the radiation went into my spine, and it probably was a lot of other things, like the tumor crushing my spine and the 2 surgeries. But
there's that, yeah.
But it's definitely radiation, they think. So I've had it, especially within the last few months, it's been tough because I now have to use a cane. It's difficult for me to go up the stairs.
Wow. And do they have physical therapy or anything like that? Or is this one of those, okay, this is my new normal?
Yeah. I have been going to physical therapy, and that's kind of like the main thing that I have to continue doing just to keep my strength and try to get stronger. But from what my radiation oncologist thinks, there is some medications and some other treatments that I can try to see if it will help and if I could get at least some of my strength back. But it's just kind of scary because, I beat cancer and this is what I get.
Yeah, that's and this has been going on for how long, did you say?
I started noticing it back in September of last year. but it really has gone downhill with my weakness in my legs within the last 3 or 4 months.
Man, I know you think once you beat cancer, that's it. And
It's not.
no, I've heard that. And actually it was somebody I met who had sarcoma, but the radiation, she was young, and then the radiation gave her breast cancer. You know, it's unfortunate. There are,
Yeah.
it's, you know, those side effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else for you, Tater Tot? Any other, or is that to me, that would be a major one.
Yeah, it's definitely major. I think I definitely still have a lot of back pain that is manageable with like medications and stuff, but my doctors have said that I probably will have chronic back pain for the rest of my life. So it's like, oh, I'm 22, but I have back pain like I'm 70.
Right. God.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. I see that someone commented, gotta love being a young person trapped in a 90-year-old's body. I feel that. Like people still think I look, 70, but on the inside, I am 90.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly, I feel like the kind of permanent physical side effects, like the really apparent ones, are the easier ones for me personally to deal with. Like since the first time it was in my arm and I had that surgery, they kind of underestimated my growth plates and how tall I would be. So actually, like my one arm is like 2 inches shorter than the other one, and it's not super noticeable to people unless I like show them.
Wow.
So that's like a weird one. And like, I don't have a spleen and, stuff like that. But I think for me, the most difficult ones are mental health wise. I started having like major depression and anxiety, probably late high school, early college. And of course, it's like, we don't know if that's a late effect from treatment or cancer the first time or other things or whatever. And obviously a recurrence didn't help that situation. So I think medication and therapy are helpful to me for those issues. Still definitely have to come up with other strategies to cope with them. But that's been difficult, I'd say. And then just other weird stuff that I'm sure is just chemo long-term side effects that, you don't think about when you're actually fighting the cancer. And then you're like, oh, great, now I have to deal with a weird dry mouth forever and like sexual stuff. So I guess my advice there is that lube is your friend for any orifice, because seriously, sinuses are always dry, my mouth, my woman parts. I don't want to be too vulgar on here, even though we've all had cancer, we all know what's up. But just dealing with that, the menopause, the fun things like that.
The menopause. Yes.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. Well, and let me ask you guys, I mean, here you are. You guys look normal. Do you have people not understand that there are still these other things going on? Sure, you may look healthy. And in many ways you are. Right now cancer is at bay for both of you, but there's these other things that will probably be with you for the rest of your life that aren't visible. Do you guys find that's hard to kind of reconcile that?
Yeah. I feel like especially when my hair was growing back, like when it was still short, people kind of, I wouldn't say took it easy on me, but kind of knew sort of.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And now that it's long, they don't, like, no one knows unless they know me or I tell them. So, and I think now more than ever, especially with my cane that I have to walk with, like it's more noticeable. So that's very tough. And like you said, I have anxiety, especially from chemo, all of it. I never really had anxiety before cancer. Like I guess maybe just the high school anxiety, but now I deal with all sorts of anxieties, whether it's socially related or it's my body. But
Emily, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I did, and I
And
lost my train of thought.
keto
Another
brain.
side effect is having no memory.
Yeah. At least we all get it here.
True. Oh,
Chemo
that's
brain.
I do feel like since cancer has been a piece of my identity for so much longer, in a really early formative time, in some ways it's helped me. I feel like I struggle less than some folks with
Interesting.
sharing about it. It's really easy for me to talk about and be vulnerable about. I definitely struggle still with like, I don't want people to perceive me as weak, and I still perceive myself as weak sometimes, just, from being easily fatigued or things like that. But everyone who knows me well knows my story. And I just don't like to beat around the bush with things. Like back in the day when I was on Tinder, like after treatment, that was in my profile. I was like, survivor, not here to mess around. Like, I will be that person who's like, oh, by the way, I can't have children. I know this is our first date, but
Oh my gosh.
that's not an issue. If it is,
Emily, we need to talk because I'm struggling.
Yeah, no, but I know. It's like I can't believe we haven't met in like the family. It's a small group.
Yeah.
Well, and so is that for both of you, fertility, that would be another one of those long-term things, right? Yeah. That's extremely hard to talk about. I know that from personal experience also. Yeah.
I talk with my therapist all the time. I'm like, how am I supposed to bring this up?
Right. What is the right? Yeah. There's no rule book for this, right? There's no guideline for, hey, on the X number date, this is when you mentioned, by the way. Yeah. It's a whole new thing that you're navigating for sure.
Yeah.
But talking to your therapist about it, and Emily, it sounds like you too, that's huge. I mean, at least you're talking to someone about it.
Yeah.
That is huge.
But yeah, Tinder's definitely difficult post-cancer.
It's a weird place anyway, and then post-cancer, it's just like, oh God, no, what's happening?
Yeah.
Tinder stories probably. Oh man.
Yeah, and I remember like, especially right after chemo, like I had the bald head, but I still had photos of myself from pre-cancer, and people like, which was horrible, but people would be like, I don't think that's the same person. And I'm like, I mean, it isn't, but it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think.
Oh man.
Yeah, people's perceptions are. Yeah, I would get both times treatment, and with hair growing back, I was frequently misgendered. I just embrace it after a while.
Yeah.
Wait,
there's no point.
Apologize, and you're like, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah. I don't have the energy to correct you, so go with it. Now I'm wondering, I don't know if you guys are involved in like survivor groups or things like that, but if you are, or just kind of in your discussions with survivors, have you come up against survivor's guilt? Have you known people who have passed away and knowing you're still here? Have either of you dealt with that? And if you have, how have you coped with it? And not everybody does, but that is one question I usually ask because it comes up from time to time.
I don't know if I've ever really felt survivor's guilt. I think I've more mourned the person that I was before more than anything.
Yeah.
I think that maybe would be like the kind of guilt I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have come up against it quite frequently. And I feel like it has gotten a little better over time, but I don't know. It always seems to come and go intensely when something happens. And I feel like it definitely affects me more when it's someone passes who had Ewing's.
Oh yeah.
That makes it, I feel like that's just always so much more difficult, especially I think currently I'm the only person I personally know who's survived a recurrence.
Wow.
I know there's others out there, but I know a couple of folks who have passed after recurrences. So there's a lot of weird guilt baggage around that. And then especially when it's friends who have children, I feel like extra terrible.
Yeah.
But now their kids have to deal with not having a parent. But I try to tell myself that it doesn't help anybody feeling that way. It doesn't help them, and it certainly doesn't help myself.
Right. Yeah, that's actually an excellent point. That's exactly the situation where I feel it more if there's a parent who's passed away and they have kids. But you're right. That's an excellent point, that feeling that doesn't help. It's not going to bring that person back. It's not going to help the surviving spouse.
Yeah.
But we can still admit that it sucks and it's hard.
Definitely. I do think talking about it with other cancer friends helps. And I write too. I like got a lot of sad poems, you know.
Yeah. How do you guys, just kind of in a more general sense, how do you deal with the cancer stressors? So for you, Emily, writing, talking to others, is there anything else you guys do in either, I don't know, just to kind of deal with the stress and the disappointment, the anger, all of it? Is there anything else you guys do?
I would say like something that I've learned from my therapist is just like self-compassion, especially when like I fall or I hurt or anything. I try to like just like put my hand to my heart and just kind of come back to myself and just kind of like realize that it's okay and that I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I love that. I feel like I'm really into trying hard to give myself permission. Like I want to be healthy and work out and eat right and do all these things that, you know, survivors should do. And definitely Sunday, the day before my scans, all I did was watch Netflix and eat donuts all day. And then I was like mad at myself, and I was like, Emily, you're allowed to sit and eat donuts all day. Like you're dealing with a lot right now, a lot of feelings. Like it's okay.
Yep. So. Pre-scan donuts should be part of the care plan, I think. That's a good one. I like that.
Prescription donuts.
Definitely. Do you guys continue to keep yourself informed about your kind of cancer? And if so, where do you go? Do you go online? Do you just talk to your doctor? Do you talk to, you know, like sport groups, that kind of stuff?
I think like I try not to search things on the internet.
Yes.
Just because it's scary. But I feel like I am always in contact with my doctors, especially now. I've been going to like so many different doctors just to figure out what's going on with the weakness in my legs. Right. So I try to make sure I have lists of questions and I come prepared, and I'm like firing up questions and like trying to memorize. And like I think especially like just memorizing medications and all the medications that I've had and just the changes. I think that's the only thing that I try to keep myself informed, or just even like trying to find new ways to, instead of medications, like.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Emily, how about you?
I think I'm not super informed, honestly. Like and my parents super supported me both times through treatment. So I know a lot of folks were like, oh yeah, I did this round of like chemo. I had these drugs and it was 20 days and this time. So I'm like, I recognize some names of drugs. I really didn't. I kind of shut down and let like my parents deal with it. So sometimes I feel like I definitely should be more well informed, but I feel like as long as I'm going to my follow-up appointments and like trying to do my best to be, you know, healthy and avoid, you know, carcinogens where possible because they're everywhere. Then that's it. Like sometimes I feel like I subscribe to a bunch of different cancer organizations that I get emails with, and sometimes like a study will catch my eye and I'll read it. But as far as like staying on top of new trials or treatments, I definitely don't. So.
Yeah, totally understand that. So if you are listening and you have some questions, go ahead and put them over there and we will ask Emily and Carly. I'm wondering if, I mean, we all know cancer sucks, right? I am wondering if there have been any unexpected positive things. Like, I'm not saying that you count it a joy that you had cancer and all that, but in the midst of all the crap, has there been things that you didn't realize or you didn't think about that have actually been a positive outcome from the whole thing?
Yeah. I think two things that come to mind, especially, is just how intuitive I've become with my own body. Like, I mean, sometimes it's a blessing and a curse because, like,
Right, of
I'll
course.
feel like a pain and I'm like, oh, cancer.
Right.
But I think it's also been very helpful with like doctors. Like, I know how I'm feeling and I know what to do. So I think that's been something that I'm very thankful for. And another thing would just be, like I said before, finding out who your real people are, your real friends, and who's going to stay beside you when you're in your darkest days. I think that's been something that's I've been thankful for. It's just really finding out who my people are.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally. Both of those are relatable for sure. And for me personally, having cancer pretty young initially, I don't know if this is a positive, but it's not a negative. It's like, you know, people would ask, oh, would you, like, if you could go back and not have cancer?
Right.
Like, I don't know, like weird questions. It changed so much of who I was at a young age that I have no idea who I would be as a person if I had never had cancer. So it's really hard for me to separate it out and be like, oh, well, this good thing came from it, this bad thing came from it. Honestly, I think I'm much more self-aware and empathetic from having had cancer.
Right.
Maybe I would still be that way without it. Don't know.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. Especially because you were so, 12, what, 7th grade?
Yeah, 6th. I was in like 6th grade. Yeah.
I mean, that's such a formative time. Who knows? Yeah, there is no way to know. That's an interesting point. All right. If someone in your shoes was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, what would you say to them? Good, bad, and ugly. Anything.
It's a loaded
all
question.
fair game. I know it is. It's fair game. I mean, you can either picture yourself or picture someone if they happen to get cancer. Or you could think of it as, what do you wish somebody would have told you back then?
I think one thing probably would be just that, like, I was like, oh, like, I'm strong, but I'm really not. And then, like, after cancer, I'm like, okay, like, I really know that I'm strong, and I feel like I could do anything just because I got through it. Even like the darkest moments, like, I wanted to give up, but I feel like you learn a lot about yourself and like your self-worth and your strength, I think. And I think you just gotta like really power through, even if it's so hard. Like, just do it for yourself, if for anyone.
Yep. Excellent. Yeah.
I think I would say do what you got to do to survive, to make it through. For me, that meant eating a lot of weird stuff and like sleeping all the time.
Yeah.
And then immediately go to therapy, even if you don't think you need it, because all of that trauma is being processed on some level. And the coping mechanisms that you developed to help you survive, rightfully so, are probably not going to help you in non-cancer world. Again, sleeping all the time is a terrible coping mechanism for the real world. But during cancer, it's great. So have someone to talk to help you navigate that.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. And this question's similar but different. Are there things now where you are? So Carly, you're 2 years out, right? And from the last time, Emily, you're almost 5 years out. So are there things that you wish you would have known then? Things you wish somebody would have told you? that you know now? Or, and this is what some people have said, is you kind of have to find these things out as you go. It's kind of it's a difficult question, I know, but I'm wondering if there's anything that comes to mind that for you as a 19-year-old or as a 12-year-old or as a 21-year-old, it would have been helpful if you would have known that when you were diagnosed.
That's another
No, I know
question.
it's a hard one. This is a hard one. And if you don't, that is absolutely fine.
I would think maybe just even like having someone tell me like you have to fight for yourself, even if it's cancer or if it's like a treatment that your doctors are saying that you need, or it's a certain like medication that you need and you don't feel it's right. You just got to stick up for yourself, and you got to like really advocate for your own body because no one else will.
Yep.
Yeah. I think 12-year-old me, I would have told, well, the thing is I wouldn't have listened. I know.
Right.
I would say, actually do your PT, do your exercises that you don't want to do. But 12-year-old me would be like, no.
Right.
And similarly, I think like one of the big takeaways, we mentioned FOMO earlier, like a lot of my friends were graduating while I was still like in the hospital and things like that.
Yeah.
And it really helped me realize for myself and just in general, like that there is no, like all of our timelines that society has are so arbitrary about like career and family and marriage and graduation, all that stuff. And I feel like, but like you said, I had to learn that for myself from going through it. And I think if someone had just told me like timelines are arbitrary, I'd be like, no, screw you. You're just saying that because you're not going to graduate on time. Like I would have been really horrible about it. But
yeah, I get that. It's tough.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't have listened to physical therapy or.
Oh yeah, there's no way. I'm like, I have
now
advice that I would never take.
Yeah. Even now I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Exactly.
But it's good for me, but I don't want to do it.
Right. This is why it's the ultimate hypothetical question, because you know yourself, and you know that even though you would tell yourself wouldn't would not listen. Someone says you definitely learn a lot about your strength. Someone had HL stage 4 and received treatments through this pandemic, which could have added a whole nother element to the treatment scene. And then another question: how has the pandemic, speaking of, changed your life? Are you more careful about your immune system because of it as a cancer survivor?
I feel like I still like I wear a mask and I do the things that I need to do, but I also, for some reason, I feel almost bulletproof. Like after surviving cancer, I'm like, it's tough to say, but I think I just try to keep myself as healthy, and like I said, I'm very intuitive with my body, so like any sign of COVID, I would probably freak out. So
I love hearing that, because I am like so anxious about it constantly, all the time. I like moved back in with my parents when COVID started because I could work from home and all this stuff. And I don't know if it's because like having after a transplant, you like I had to wear a mask all the time anyway for like months afterwards, and it was always like just terrified of germs. So a lot of it is like re-stimulating to that. And then I almost have like the opposite view where I'm like, I survived cancer. If I die from this stupid virus, I'm gonna be so mad. So I'm like really scared of it.
You're doing everything you can to not let it happen. Yeah.
Exactly. So luckily I still have a bunch of like N95s, and I still have to go to the grocery store and things like that, but I like don't touch people. Like, I can sit apart from each other and get coffee at the park outside and live like
definitely. Another comment here: I have become more aware of my immune system and how it's compromised. I'm hesitant with going certain places or doing certain things. And Emily, it sounds like you can relate to that. Even though you have to do it, there's a
Yeah.
Interesting.
Definitely.
Well, one other question I like to ask at the end is if there's anything I haven't asked you that you would want to share about your cancer experience, about side effects, about coping mechanisms, about any part of your cancer experience that you would want to share, either with a caregiver or another survivor. I just kind of throw it out there, not that you have to have something, but I usually just throw it out there to see if there's anything that you've learned that you want to share, anything along those lines.
I think something like I knew growing up, I knew someone who had cancer and who survived, but like, I feel like you don't know what cancer is until you live it yourself, or you have like, if it's your child or if it's your mother, like you don't know, like no one knows until you're there. So yeah.
True statement. No doubt. Yeah.
I think for me, one of the reasons I love Epic so much is just the sense of community and really the cancer community as a whole, or AYA specifically. Like, there's so many awesome people, and I think it's so important that we share our stories and commiserate with each other and vent and cry and all those things. It's so important. And I would also encourage any caregivers watching or listening, or patient survivors, like, tell your caregivers to find caregiver friends so they can also bitch together, because I think that's so important. And like, I have told my mom, like, I would for sure rather have been the one like sick than have to watch someone I love go through that. Because it's just so horrible. So I think caregivers need the same love and care and attention that we get. So yeah, please go complain about us to your caregiver friends, not to our faces.
Another thing, I think for anyone who's listening or watching, camp was the first week in a long time that I was able to talk with people, because I about my diagnosis, about my just everything, because I felt like during treatment I kind of wanted to stay out of those groups for some reason. I just was like, I don't know, like don't put me in those groups. But then as soon as I went to Epic, like I felt like you really do need a group like that to be able to like, oh, like that, I felt that same way, like that chemo did the same thing to me. Like it's something that I feel like you need, no matter how much you don't want it.
Totally agree. Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for your time, for your vulnerability, for sharing, for your tips. I mean, those were some excellent things that you shared. And I hope people take them to heart because they were great.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sunshine. And we'll have to connect outside of
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, you too.
For
you need to connect. All right. Thank you so much. Tune in again in 2 weeks when we will have our next episode. All right.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Epic Experience was founded after my oldest son, Michael, was diagnosed with testicular cancer in 2007. I wanted to offer up hope to other cancer survivors so people know they're not alone, so that they know they can get out and start living again. It just may look different than how it did before they had cancer.
Epic Experience is unique in the fact that we really pride ourselves on trying to take anyone and everyone that we can. Doesn't matter when you were diagnosed. If you've been diagnosed 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out, we don't put a timeline on it. We say that, you know what, if you've had cancer come into your life, we have a place for you.
Epic Experience. One word, it's epic.
Yeah!
You have a chance to come up here and do some things that you've never probably done before.
This camp has taught me, like, why are you afraid? Like, what's stopping you? I got out on the water in the pond here, and I'm like, I haven't done a headstand in a long time, and it's really difficult to do it on water. And I'm like, what am I afraid of?
At camp, it's about healing your soul and your spirit and living beyond that cancer diagnosis, having fun, being with people that understand, and really just embracing everything that life has to offer you.
They just said you were going to go to a camp, and I didn't even know where it was going to be. I got hauled up the mountain and got to play in the snow, and the thing that happened is I rediscovered joy, found myself again. Favorite memories from camp? It's running down the hill in snowshoes. It's something I never really considered before.
I got on a sled today, and I'm going to be honest. I mean, I've beat cancer, but I was still nervous to get on a sled.
Well, kayaking is individual. You're all alone in your boat, and it's you versus the elements and how strong you are and getting through the challenges that are coming up, whether they're rapids or something in the water in the way. And with cancer, it's you versus your diagnosis.
Epic Experience is about empowering adult cancer survivors and thrivers beyond their cancer diagnosis. It's about giving them a community in which they feel that they have people they can connect with, that understand them, and have walked their shoes to really know, hey, you know what? I'm not alone, and I have people with me, and it's so important for them to feel that connection.
Things that I used to worry about don't worry me as much anymore. Family is critically important. Friends and experiences is what life is about.
Well, I didn't think I needed this week, but I needed it more than I knew. I needed to just play in the snow. I needed to laugh until my sides hurt. I needed to connect with people, even though I didn't think I did. I needed to find out that I'm not alone in things I think I'm alone in.
So here at the 7W Ranch, not only are the activities that we do for the week amazing, but just the beautiful scenery around alone makes it just so incredible.
I was feeling a bit lost and unsure how to cope with life after cancer. I feel like Epic Experience brought me closer to who I used to be and who I want to be in the future.
Want me to cry when I talk about 7W? It's magic. Just say, it's special.
If you are debating on coming on this trip, just do it. Don't hesitate. I hesitated. I waited till the last minute, and I am so grateful that I came here.
This has been life-changing. This week has absolutely changed my life in ways that I couldn't have even imagined that it would.
Epic Experience is the right name for this experience. Trust, go for it.
Why can't you experience this? It's something that they've already been through, cancer treatments, whatever the therapy is, and this is another way to heal.
If you want to really check back in with yourself and find out where your inner person is and where your soul survives, come to a camp and just let it be.
Don't think about it. Don't wonder, should I? Just do it. Sign up for camp, and it'll be an amazing experience full of a lifetime of memories.